Hi everyone, I'm so excited today to talk to you about week 3 of Guided Reading with a Purpose. So far, my students have learned about characters and setting in week 1, and in week 2 they learned about retelling, beginning, middle, and end. So the focus of Guided Reading with a Purpose is to build their comprehension strategies through listening to stories. So they're listening comprehension. So one of the things, how many times have you heard, what did this story make you think of when you're doing an assessment with a child? That is why, since that question comes up so frequently, that is why we do text connections week 3, 4, and 5. So week 3, we're talking about text to ourself. Easiest connection to make because we all have stories to tell. I'm sure your children could raise their hand and talk the entire day if you let them. Sometimes we have to stop them from sharing so many stories. So text to self is actually a super easy strategy for them to learn. They just don't even know it's called text to self. But basically, it's when they read the story and it reminds them of something in their life. So this happens all the time, but now we have like a formal name for it with our Guided Reading with a Purpose. So we begin the week by gluing the little text to self song in our marble book and singing it and talking about what is text to self. Behind me here, I have a little chart that says text with an arrow self. It actually does say to, but my chart's smaller than the one I have in my classroom. That chart's up all week long with a pad of sticky notes. And every time we read a story, we visit that chart. We talk about the text and we talk about how it relates to ourself. And I just listen to them and plop their ideas up on the sticky, put the sticky notes right up on the chart. This is a strategy that I revisit weekly as time goes on. Anytime that I think of a connection after reading a story, I say to my children, oh my gosh, I just made a text to self connection, and I share a personal story with them. 1, I want to keep modeling text to self connections, and 2, the kids love to hear personal stories about you. And they want to know that you're a human being, that you have feelings, that you have a life, and learn more about you because they look up to you. So I try to do this the entire school year. And because I do it all year long, they really know what text to self means. And sometimes you'll hear them say, oh, I just made a text to self connection, and they model what you say. So at the end of the year, when I go to do their reading diagnostic assessment, they can make lots of connections because we've worked on this skill all year long. I do want to apologize if you're on IGTV. This might go longer than 10 minutes, so I will link the YouTube video link if you want to continue on. So this week we are talking about text to self connections, and we are reading stories about families. We know families come in many shapes and sizes, and they're not all the same. So we're going to celebrate the differences. We are going to talk about moms, dads, siblings, brothers, sisters, grandparents, and we're going to talk about families that maybe have 2 moms or 2 dads or no moms, or foster parents or adoption. I've taught this several times in my own classroom, and I've had the whole gamut. And one other thing that I come from a previous marriage, so my kids have step parents, and I always tell my kids, they're lucky they have 2 moms, or they're lucky they have 2 dads, or try to celebrate those things and not be ashamed of those things because it's true. They are lucky. So I'm not going to avoid the topic of a mom and a dad, but we're going to talk about how all families look different. But we are going to introduce what the word sibling is, parents, a mom, a dad, and so on. But the first day we're going to talk about ourselves. So we're going to read some stories about ourselves. One thing with Guided Reading with a Purpose is I don't want to limit people to the stories that they feel comfortable reading. So there are blank templates. So I'm going to show you several books, and you can pick what you feel most comfortable with sharing with your students. So on day 1, you could do, I have 2 different stories. I have I Like Myself, and I have Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. And actually, both of these books are illustrated by the same person, but written by different authors. So you're going to read this story, or whichever story you choose, to focus on themselves, and then you're going to have them make some text to self connections on the board, and then they're going to do a little activity. And so this is kind of just an example of what it might look like. So maybe you did do this specific story, Molly Lou. You would tell something that Molly Lou did and how it relates to yourself. A lot of modeling with this happens throughout the whole week. Don't expect them to just be able to do it independently. We share examples, we do it together. Then by the end of the week, they start getting the hang of it. Your higher learners, they get the hang of it right away. And I wanted to share with you what a cover sheet looks like for this week. It has the title, All About Me, at the top. It talks about the materials, the activities, and some extensions that you could do. So you could make a craft. I have crafts for the whole week. I have a little Molly Lou craft, Stand Tall. Molly Lou has, this has kind of been in my box, but she kind of has buck teeth and gets made fun of. They can make themselves. I stand tall and just use little paper to design their hair. If you do I Like Myself, you can do something similar. I have these are a little bit bigger. Let's see if I can flip through some pictures. So anyways, those are some examples that I hang up, but they just talk a little bit about themselves. This is a nice little writing extension if you're ready for it. You know, it's up to you. So that's day one. Day two, we learn about a mom and a dad. I like to share this story because it separates them in case a child just has a mom or a child just has a dad. This is called What Mommies Do Best. And then it's kind of a cool, it's written by Neumaroff. She does all the If You Give a Mouse a Cookie stories. And then if you flip it, it says What Do Daddies Do Best. So it's like a flip-flop book. And you can read through and just talk about some of the fun things that you can do with a mom and a dad. Now, everything in here the children won't be able to connect with, but when you're done, we start sharing what are some things you do with your parents, and they can start sharing all the things that they do with their parents and do a text to self connection activity worksheet. Then day three, we talk about what a sibling is. A sibling is a brother or sister. So you might say, what if you have a child that doesn't have a sibling? We talked about, this happened to me 2 years ago, and we talked about, the child brought up how his cousins come over all the time because he's an only child, and a cousin can be kind of similar to a sibling or a friend that you play with all the time, you know, somebody your age or around your age that you can play with too. So you can make connections that way too. So I don't have this book for some reason. I think there was a book thief that ran off with it. But there is a story just like this. It's called What Do Brothers Do Best? And then you flip it over and it says What Do Sisters Do Best by Neumaroff. I personally like to read that story just because, again, it separates them out a little bit. And so that's what we do on day three. On day four, we talk about grandparents. In my school, we are very heavy into Grandparents' Day. It happens right at the beginning of the year. In September is Grandparents' Day. I think it's September 6th, not positive. So we like to get this unit done or started near that time because then we can have some of the activities. So Neumaroff does have a story called What Do Grandmas Do Best? What Do Grandpas Do Best? I personally love to read these stories here, How to Babysit a Grandma and How to Babysit a Grandpa by Jean Reagan. They're hilarious, and just add a little bit of fun to it. But then they can talk about things that they might do with their grandparents. We have a lot of children who don't have local grandparents because they're from other countries in our school. So they talk about, they share things that they do when they go to visit their grandparents, or how they communicate with them via Zoom or Meets or FaceTime, and just kind of the things that they can share with that. So I've never had a kid say they don't have a grandparent. So I don't know. We do make grandparents and hang them up for them so they get to make a grandma or grandpa. And literally I just put color heads out and scrap paper, and they design the hair. These are just some fun examples. And honestly, they turn out so adorable. And then for Grandparents' Day, it's not part of this unit, but we just invite the grandparents in to have lunch with us. And we do a couple little activities together, and then they go home. So they just love coming to the classroom I have the kids just tell a little bit about their grandparent, and then I do a little slideshow, and we sing them a song, and I have a whole Grandparents' Day pack. If you want to look for that on TPT, you could find that. So I'd like to end the week with a couple family books. My favorite book is called The Family Book by Todd Parr. It's awesome. It talks about all different kinds of families. Some that have the same color skin, some that don't, some that look alike, some that look like their pets, some that have stepmoms and stepdads. They talk about adoption. Some have 2 moms or 2 dads. Some have 1 parent instead of 2. And we just celebrate our families for who they are. And it's just a really cute story. So with this, I have a little not a sort, but just some things that come out of this story, some little cards that we put up and talk about different kinds of families. And another story I like to read is Me and My Family Tree, and it kind of goes through everybody that could kind of be in your family tree and how a family tree works, and so you could do that story as well. To celebrate our families, I have a couple different activities you could do. I have this rainbow glyph, so we make these little clouds, and for every color, it's a person in the family. So mom is red, dad's orange, the boys are yellow, the girls are green, you, the child, is blue, and if you have pets, you are purple. So everybody's looks different. So here's a different one. If you have 2 moms, you would put 2 red sticks. So anyways, they turn out so cute and super fun to just kind of celebrate how everybody's rainbow is different and unique. Another thing you could have them do is, this is from my family tree. So it says Megan's family tree. I don't know, the glue kind of seeped through there, but you could give them little circles and make a color and write below who the people are and have these little family trees out in your hallway. So another sort that comes with this is things parents do, things children do, and things that both parents and children do. So they're little cards like that. I love to have the card extensions, read books, love each other, and so on. And finally, we have a little all about families, and I make this little chart too during the week. Can, have, and are. Ugh, they're all upside down. But there's so much packed in this unit, and I don't want to keep rambling, but basically the focus is to get to know each other beyond our friendships. Now we know about rules and routines. We've learned about being a good friend with our friendship week last week, and this week we're going to get to know each other on a more personal level and find out more about our families and ourselves and celebrate our differences and our families. So that is what week 3 is. It's text to self connections, and stay tuned because we'll go on to text to, I'm not sure which one next. I forget if it's world or text to text. I forget the order, but the next text connection is week 4. See you soon.